Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Minish and welcome to this Minish review. I'll be giving you my first impressions of Chivalry Medieval Warfare. Chivalry Medieval Warfare is a medieval first-person game made by Banner Studios. Having no single-player content besides a tutorial, this game is heavily focused on its multiplayer. It's currently only available on PC, but the devs have stated that they might port it to the consoles if there's enough interest. This is another one of those games that has seen the light of day thanks to a successful Kickstarter campaign, and it's also the first commercial title for Banner Studios. Before this game though, Banner Studios did make a Half-Life 2 mod named Age of Chivalry featuring similar gameplay. The storyline of this game is quite simple. There are two factions fighting each other, the Mason Order and the Agatha Knights, and each faction believes they're following the one true king. I can already tell you that if you're going to start looking for the lesser of two evils to play with, you can stop right here. As an example, one moment I'm ordered to kill 50 peasants by the Mason Order, and the next game I'm an Agatha Knight and I'm burning down houses and farms. Enough about the storyline, let's talk gameplay. Medieval is a key word in Chivalry Medieval Warfare. There are no guns or rocket launchers. It's all close and personal with a large arsenal of melee weapons. Both one- and two-handed swords, axes and maces are available alongside spears and several shields. However, for those of us who prefer ranged weapons, there are bows, crossbows, throwing weapons and siege weapons available to shoot, burn or crush your opponents with. In total there are around 60 weapons available, with a whole bunch of them locked at the start to add the supposedly must-have RPG element. Melee weapons give you three options when attacking. You can do a horizontal swing, a vertical one, or you can try to stab your opponent. The damage of each attack differs depending on the weapon you're using and where you're hitting your opponent. You can also parry with every melee weapon provided that you're actually aiming where your opponent's swing is headed. You can kick your opponent to make them stumble, forcing them to lower their shield and interrupting their attacks. But that's not all, you can also feign an attack. As an example, you can start off by using a horizontal swing, and when you see your opponent is going to parry, you feign, cancelling the swing and immediately stabbing him in the foot instead. Bastard never saw that one coming. Blocking, parrying, dodging, kicking and feigning all require stamina. Stamina slowly regenerates over time, and when you get over eager and deplete your stamina bar, you become exhausted and unable to attack or defend. Each type of weapon also has its strengths and weaknesses. For example, a spear has a lot of reach, but it's useless if your enemies get too close. Swords are great against light armored targets, but heavily armored targets receive more damage from blunt weapons. However, some of these weapons are restricted by the class you choose to play. The game features 4 different classes, each with their own fighting style. First of all, the Archer, the master of ranged weapons, but also the worst melee fighter. He has access to bows, crossbows and javelins, alongside some weaker melee weaponry. This class is for those of us who prefer ranged, supportive roles. The Man-at-Arms is up next, a light armored and evasive warrior. This is the only class that can quickly dash in the direction to avoid damage or to close a gap between them and an opponent, but this also means he dies fast when he gets hit. The Man-at-Arms uses one-handed melee weapons and relies on multiple fast attacks. He also has access to shields and throwing weapons. A unique throwing weapon for this class is the Firebomb, or as I like to call it, ye old Molotov cocktail. Next up, the Vanguard, a heavily armored berserker who uses two-handed weapons. He specializes in weapons with a long reach. His attacks are slow but pack a serious punch. The Vanguard can take more hits than the Man-at-Arms, but he's also less mobile. He's the only class that can use spears and polearms. He also has a unique charge attack when sprinting. Last but not least, the Knight. A slow and heavily armored tank, he's a force to be reckoned with on the battlefield. He has the highest armor of all classes, but he's also the slowest, both when attacking and when moving around. His attacks are easy to dodge, but hit like a truck. The Knight has both one-handed and two-handed weapons, including the Bastard Sword, which can be used as both. He also has the strongest shield in the game, the Tower Shield. Getting past the Knight with the Tower Shield, who is blocking a narrow corridor, is not easy. It requires strategy and quick thinking. When a Knight blocks, he also drains less stamina than the other classes. In short, when fighting someone, you not only have to consider what class they are, but also what weapon they're swinging at you. This forces you to think about what you and your opponent are wielding and decide what strategy you are going to use. Are you going to try and rush past his defenses, or wait until he makes a fatal error and chop his head off? Running in and swinging your sword like a madman is not going to work, and you'll probably kill a few of your allies while doing this, because friendly fire is always turned on. Precisely timed attacks and blocks are the key to victory. All of this makes for adrenaline-fueled fights which feel very rewarding to win. Combat is fluid and fast paced, and while it might seem simple at first, play for a few hours and you'll notice there's actually a lot of depth to it. There's a high skill ceiling which allows players to learn and get better at the game. Remember that guy that laughed at how much you sucked the first day he started playing? A few days later and you're ready to gut him like a fish because he's actually not that good after all. However, there are a few problems with the melee combat. The first person view can easily disorient you when you're carving through enemies like butter. The player collision, which disables walking through each other's characters, sometimes makes it hard to move around when your allies are standing around you, resulting in you dying instead of getting that kill. The attacks with the slower weapons sometimes feel unnaturally slow and clunky, but you do get used to it after a while. The melee combat is what makes this game great, but let's not forget about the ranged weapons. Personally, I think the ranged weapons aren't very fun or rewarding to play. Their crosshairs are huge, they're hard to aim, and they don't give you the adrenaline rush the melee weapons give you. Most archers end up hitting their allies instead of enemies, and they start racking up the team kills, which isn't fun for anyone. The same thing goes for siege weapons. The game includes several siege weapons like the catapult and the ballista, but most of them are a risk to use, because you might just get a nice friendly kill streak going. All siege weapons are stationary, except the battering ram, which follows a preset route while you escort it to the gates. In short, melee combat is great, ranged combat still needs work. As I said before, Chivalry Medieval Warfare is all about the multiplayer. The servers currently host up to a total of 32 players and feature the following 6 different game modes. The more or less standard King of the Hill, Capture the Flag, Free for All and Team Deathmatch. Next up is Last Team Standing. The team that survives the round wins. You can only respawn at the start of a round, and when you die you need to wait until the next round to be able to play again. It's a bit like Counter-Strike. The last game mode is called Team Objective. Each map has its own campaign, with one of the factions defending and the other one attacking. The objectives are multi-staged. As an example, first you need to kill peasants, then you need to push a battering ram to the gates, and then you need to smash open the gates, get inside and try to kill the player that has been chosen to play the king. Meanwhile, the other team is doing everything they can to try and stop you. Currently, there are 6 maps available, with areas ranging from vast open battlefields and buildings with small corridors to an arena with a pit in the middle which makes you feel like a badass Spartan when you manage to kick someone in. The difference in gameplay between the maps is huge, even when playing the same game mode. Also, since each map has its own visual style, you don't get the feeling you're playing the same map over and over and over again. However, all of the maps and game modes put you up against more than one opponent, which sometimes ends up being a big clusterfuck of sword swings and arrows. I would really like to see a game mode that allows me to duel a single player without having to worry about someone flanking me and chopping my arm off. Graphically, the game looks great. Both the lighting and the animations are very high quality. The texture quality on the character models and weapons is great, and while the textures on the actual maps don't look amazing, I can guarantee you won't notice them when a vanguard is charging at you with a claymore. None of the maps feel empty, each of them is filled up with enough detail to give you the idea you're actually fighting a real medieval battle. There are loads of graphical options available in the menu screen, and this allows you to tweak your game to your preferences. The sound in Chivalry Medieval Warfare is great. When you kill an enemy, you can hear them beg for mercy and listen to the blood filling their lungs as they gasp for air. Burning opponents fall to the floor and cry out in agony. The impact sounds when fighting are also very lifelike. And when you feel like making a statement, you can easily taunt your opponents with the press of a button, which is always an awesome thing to do after you won a difficult fight. In short, the sounds are extremely realistic and can be quite unnerving for the faint of heart. I wouldn't recommend playing this game with children around. There are a few bugs in this game, some of which can be extremely annoying. I've had my controls reset about 3 times already, and sometimes I had to restart the game because it wasn't finding any multiplayer service. You can also get stuck and be unable to move, although I only encountered this bug once in a total of 12 hours of gameplay. In conclusion, the combination of fluid, fast-paced combat, lifelike sounds and great graphics make me feel like I'm in the middle of a real medieval battlefield where I'm fighting for my life. Combat in Chivalry Medieval Warfare rewards brain over brawn and is truly skill-based. Some classes might be harder to play than others, but all of them are nicely balanced with their own strengths and weaknesses. There are enough multiplayer modes to keep everyone entertained, and the 6 available maps all require the use of different tactics. The online community is also very active, with about 3,500 people playing Chivalry Medieval Warfare on Steam every day. It's not all great though. I'm still missing the option to play 1 vs 1 against other people, and the game isn't bug-free yet. However, in my opinion, the pros far outweigh the cons. The game is currently available on Steam, but can be found cheaper on Gamersgate and on chivalrythegame.com. Both of these alternatives provide you with a Steam key, so you get exactly the same thing but for less money. Prices vary between 20 and 25 euros. For those of you wondering if it's worth your hard-earned cash, I can only tell you that I've already spent 12 hours playing this game, and after this review is finished, I'm planning on adding a few more severed heads to my collection. Once again, my name is Minish. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe for a new video each Saturday and follow me on Facebook or Twitter for all the latest news and updates. Also, don't forget to check out my previous video.